I've gave the Derbi a quick power wash. It's a bit better. These fork tubes as well need replaced. Look at that. So I'm going to strip that off. Get these ordered up. I want to strip them off to see what size it is. Right, I'll start off with taking the brake caliper off, then the bolt, the spindle bolt for the wheel. Right, that spindle nut is, let's see what size that is, 22mm, and you've got a pinch bolt there, that's a 6mm hex, just knock that out. Right, the next thing is to get the Forklight out, so you've got, that's a 6mm and that's a 6mm, and probably have to slacken that headlamp clamp off. I just noticed, it's funny when the bike was actually on the road, turning steering, it felt alright, but see when it's sitting like that, it's notchy. So these bearings, the headstock bearings, all getting replaced, top and bottom, same as that thing there. So right, off with these. Took the two bolts out that white headlamp shroud, I suppose you could call it, two there. That's then I've had to slacken these two out. That's like a clamp going around the fork tube. Right, let's take them off. Right, that's that off. Now you can see there the bearing. That's all worn off. Now, to replace a fork seal with that would just chew all that up within minutes. So the next thing is to get that tube out, because I want to measure that just to make sure I'm going to order the right part. Right, stripping this fork tube off and new seals. I've just grabbed that right in the vice here, by the way, because that's bucket material. And the oil smells like rotten fish. Right, so I've unscrewed taken the bottom bolt out. That's is that a 10mm out there. Got the spring at the top. Just showing you how bad they were leaking. Look at that's oil in there. Look at the state of that. And it stinks. Phew. Just checking that. See with that wear on that tube. On other bikes there's like a brass bush that goes inside that. Obviously these didn't, so what I want to do is just check to make sure that outer tube isn't worn. So I got a good bit of the inner tube and just put it in and just check, see if there's any play, which there isn't, because if there was excessive play I would have had to get a new outer tube, and that's, well, that wouldn't be cheap. This will be an extra bit of the video I've added in, just a wee afterthought, because these didn't strip down as easy all the time. It's when, just thinking it right, you've got that's the outer tube, the inner tube, that, if you want to call that a plunger, that sits inside there, right? And the whole lot obviously goes in there. That bolt goes through the bottom of that tube and it connects onto that, right inside that. Now what sometimes can happen is when you're trying to unscrew that whole lot is going to be spinning inside that tube. Now it depends, sometimes these have got Loctite on them. Now what you have to do is, if you're lucky, you can keep the strain of that spring on one side, so you've got the spring putting a tension on that, and inside that tube. Or if it is really tight, you need something to try and catch the teeth there. I've done a few bikes and there's a sort of similar setup on them all, but the teeth, let's see, at the widest point is 18 millimeters. That second one I done, the screw didn't come out as easy, so what I done for the top, I managed to get that's just about a square bar, and I managed to put a bit of strain right on that, push that down, so that prevented that from turning inside that tube, just in case you come across it. Everything's not as easy what it seems all the time on YouTube. Right, I've just received the new fork tubes for the Derbi Senda. I've got 2 new tubes, ordered them on eBay, and they've came from the south of France to Scotland, and it was about 5 days. I got the 2 of them, including delivery. I think it was just over £70, and they look brilliant. So what I'm going to do, I've got the outer tubes to clean up, get that degreased, rubbed down, get the insides all cleaned out, and I'll give them a lick of satin black paint. Right, I've gave that outer tube a rub down with some wet and dry emery paper. I think that's what you call it, emery paper. Right, I've cleaned that and degreased it inside. I've just knocked that seal in with one of these bushes, and it will do as long as you damage the seal. That's part of that kit. I use it for my car for doing suspension bushes. So that's that, and I'll reposition this camera. Sometimes use them to knock the oil seals in. That's hold outer tracks, wheel bearings. That's of a car. So it's handy sometimes to keep these sort of things. I don't like chucking anything away. Right, so it's in with that clip. Majority of times you can use the old one, as long as it's still got springiness about it. That's that in. Next we'll get the new tube in, along with the rest of the sort of gubbins. Right, now time to put this back together. Right, you've got the new tube. That, I think you call that the piston. That goes down the side. Hopefully. And make sure there's like a sort of plastic sealant ring on that, just make sure that's in one piece. Right, that goes down. I'll just push that down a bit, so no one the spring. So that should come through there. Right, you've got that there. sleeve that goes in there. Now all this goes in, so it's probably better actually. Probably actually better if I didn't have so much crap on my bench. Turn this the other way. You see that? Thing is, that's got to get painted, but I think I'd rather get the whole lot assembled first, then mask that off, then paint it, because if I paint that now, there's a chance it's all going to get damaged. Right, so that's all nice and clean now. I'll give that a little lubrication with some fork oil. I'll just give that a bit of lubrication as well. In there, in the actual inner part of the tube. Slide that right in. Now you've got I think that's 10mm. That's not a normal bolt, that's, look at that, that's quite a fine thread on that, so didn't lose that. I usually say these things for my benefit because I'm terrible. Right. And you've got a copper washer there. Right. In with that. Is that going in? Nope. Thing is, the bottom of that sort of piston thing had a hex on it, because that's going to put a wee bit of force in that. There. Right, that's just gently tightened up now. Remember to torque that up before I put it in. Right. So that's that on. Now I've still got the dust seal to put in. And I've got the spring to go on and fill it with oil. I'm going to have to see how much oil this takes, because there's not many different variations for these forks. With these Derbis, there's a lot of different models. That looks brilliant. Right, let me see. I'm gonna have to check, see how much oil this takes. I found a oil capacity online. It says 270 cc's, so I'm going with that. So as long as you make sure, well, this is what I do, just make sure you put the same quantity in each fork. That's 270 I'm putting in this. If it's right, if it's right, it's right. If it's not, it's tough shit. Right, down the hole, and hopefully it shouldn't have come out the other side. Right, you'll hear some sort of glugging. That's the forks, no me. Right, I'm sure it's supposed to work up and down. That starts to get going through that piston. Now that's, I use synthetic 10W synthetic oil for that. Right, and with the spring, now you've got the coils are closer apart there, or closer together I should say, closer apart, and you've got wider space there, so that the closer bit goes to the top. It probably makes sense if I take that out of the bench. Right, everything seems to be okay so far. Amazingly enough. Now you've got an O-ring on there. As long as it's no rock hard or split or anything like that, I'm using that again. Just pull that right up. Make sure you don't get cross-threaded. I've still got the dust seal to fit. That's a 19mm. Even that up. We'll get the last tighten up when it gets on the bike, when it's clamped up. Right, so the only thing left to do to that is to push in the dust seal. Now I'm not going to do that because I'm going to get these outer tubes painted. So that just goes in there. Right, that's the forks painted, satin black. They're not bad, they're not perfect though, they me. They're definitely better than what they were. I'll put the dust seals in. Right, that's the forks done. These seals just, they push and they bother like. It's just the rest of the bike's about a tip now. So they're looking not bad.